So before I do that, Darshna's asked me, so she's going to do a poll. So this is the time where you can get your mobile phones out and you can make sure that you've got Wi-Fi. And for those online, very similar as well, because we will be doing a poll as part of Darshna's topic. Again, I'm enthused and intrigued to hear, I think like some of us are in the room, to hear the journey that Copilot is taking within Clifford Chance, as much as that she can divulge. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy and have my mobile phone ready to take the poll. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny, for your kind words. You're very, very kind. And I love you for that. Okay, so yes, I'm going to start the session to do a quick poll because I kind of want to understand where people are with their Copilot journey. So yeah, if you could log on either using the QR code or by just going into slido.com and then putting in that number. I am making a big assumption here, and that is that at some point people are either on the Copilot journey or going to be. Because I don't know if any of you watched the Microsoft Digital Summit yesterday, but there's a lot of people using Copilot now compared to last year, and it's just growing. So I am making an assumption that in some shape or form, whether you do firm-wide deployment or whether you do something small, there's going to be Copilot capability in your firms. So on that note, I want to know where you're at. So where are you in your Copilot journey? Have you started? Are you exploring? Are you in pilot? Are you in pre-pilot? So people, just a few testers and that. Are you fully deployed? Oh, and the results are not showing completely. Sorry about that. Okay, that is interesting. A few more. Anyone else want to kind of add? Quite a few people in exploring mode. That's quite interesting. I can't see that percentage on fully deployed. 11. Oh, okay, great. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Right. Interesting. Okay, so on that note then, so depending on where you're at, what do you think are the barriers that your firms face with implementation of Copilot? And you can select more than one option. So where do you think your barriers are? Okay. Is there anyone that selected all of the above? Then the last question was, what's the barriers to adoption of Copilot? So some of them are the same as so some of the options are the same as previous, and some of them are different. So firstly, a little bit about me. So I am currently the product manager of the document production applications here at Clifford Chance. And I've been at Clifford Chance for 27 years. Started off in help desk, moved to different roles, and now product manager. I support 53 applications, okay, so of which Microsoft Office, Adobe DC, Adobe Document Cloud, so Document Cloud, Adobe Creative Cloud, Latera apps, Contract Express, and then also some of the legal tech tools. So it keeps me very, very busy. Now, the reason I'm introducing myself is because the whole topic of Copilot is very, very subjective. One person's view could be very different to someone else's view, even for anyone in the same firm. So the view that I'm giving today is based on the work streams that I have worked on when we were implementing Copilot, my experience, obviously, working at Clifford Chance in 27 years, the changes in technology and also the changes in business models during those 27 years, and then my experience with the drafting applications and understanding how the different applications work and the roadmap of those applications. So, each vendor that I work with is having some sort of Gen AI capability coming along. So where does Copilot fit in, and where does the other drafting applications actually still fit in right now? So on that, Just a quick overview of our implementation. So we were part of the Microsoft Early Access program, and the program started in around about July. We then, between July and October, we had a small group of users in IT that had access to Copilot. In October, we committed to doing a firm-wide deployment, so to all 6,500 people. We made that commitment. We then had a project team focusing on implementation, training, and change management. The project identified the key dependencies for successful implementation. So there were some dependencies that we put on. The one that I really closely worked on was the mechanism that we use to deploy the Office updates. Yeah, so what channel that, and moving channels as well. So I'll talk about that a little later. The other dependency was that we wanted to make sure that everyone was on Exchange Online. Because again, the first part of Copilot was that we wanted people to see the benefits of being able to see their email content. So we followed our Exchange Online deployment. We actually completed the deployment of Copilot by the first quarter of this year. So within 6 months, we'd done everything. And the reason actually we could have done it sooner, but the delay was actually the Exchange Online. That took us a lot longer because that was a big shift for our users. So that's why there was a slight, so we could have done it longer. But yeah, the rollout was super quick. When we rolled out, we simply just gave an email to the users. There was no upfront training beforehand, and I'll talk about that a bit later. I know that's going to shock some people. But yeah, so that was our implementation. So from about March, April of this year, everyone has access to Copilot. And this is Copilot within the web, Copilot within the Office apps, and also Copilot in Teams. Okay. So so I'm going to talk a bit more about this, us moving channels. So channels are the way Microsoft deliver changes to the Office suite of applications, the desktop applications, right? So prior to Copilot, we were on this semi-annual channel, which meant that we were getting security updates and bug fixes every month, but feature updates once every 6 months. So any new changes were only once every 6 months. When we started the deployment of Copilot, and again, our deployment started last year from July onwards, Microsoft were only deploying Copilot on the current channel, which meant the current channel is literally a channel where once they have an update, they want to deploy it, they just deploy it. So you could have in a month, you could have 1 update, you could have 2, or you could have 5, and you had no prior warning of when that update was coming as such. Yeah, it was that fast. So knowing how we work with Office, knowing about our add-ins, that was our biggest challenge. But we also knew that actually it was only for a short period of time because Microsoft had announced that from September onwards, they were going to move to the monthly channel. So that was our plan. When we did a wider deployment, it would be on the monthly channel. Now, to move channels, what we would do, we were very lucky actually. Our leadership team, prior to Copilot, our leadership team was very keen on us being on the latest updates of Office. And so they had tasked me with making our deployment faster. One of the reasons that deployment can be slow is the testing. So the testing of our 50 add-ins that we have in Office. I've got something like 17 in Outlook, 10 in Word, and and the list just gets longer, right? So and then obviously we've got those add-in functionality because it has some of our core functionality, the core capabilities that we want to deliver to be able to produce documents, send documents, and clean and all that kind of stuff. So it was a real case of, so how do I, back in the day, prior to 2023, it was taking us 7 days to test that whole suite for an Office update. So I had to work with the QA team to reduce that time. And what we did was we automated. Game changer. Honestly, if you were to make an investment, it would be on QA automation because what we did was we scripted up. So I told the QA team what are our most important features in all the Office add-ins and what do we need to test for. They then created a script and then they automated that script. So by doing that, what they did was they reduced that time from 7 days to 1. So now, when I have an office update, it gets released, the monthly update gets released on the second Tuesday of the month. Once it's released, it goes out to testing as well as a small deployment groups, so business users, but, sort of friendly users and IT. It goes out to them, and then by the following Thursday, so a week and a bit later, I'm deploying out to everyone. So that's how we've managed the updates, and that's how we've managed, understanding. And again, it's really quite challenging because it's a case of we understood our core functionality, and luckily, touch wood, so far nothing's been broken. But we've also had to make sure that all of our adding functionality were on the latest versions, right? So we've worked with all the vendors and we've moved all that. So that has actually been a real game changer, and it allows us to deliver faster. Training and learning. So this is the one that's probably going to horrify some people. I didn't work on a training stream at all. It was actually my colleague, Ros Taylor, and a lot of you know Ros. But unfortunately, Ros can't be with us today, so I am just basically, she just told me what to say. So the initial training approach was learn Copilot. Learn Copilot. Why did we take that approach? It's because back then, a year ago, everyone was learning. What was the capabilities of Copilot? How do they work? How do they integrate? What kind of information does it draw out? Even Microsoft were learning, right? We weren't the only ones. We were learning, Microsoft were learning, everyone. So it was a really steep learning curve. So if you're learning, how can you train that? Because we don't know what to train. So that's why we took the approach of learn Copilot. We created 2 quick reference guides. That is it. And those reference guides were literally just a quick guide to how to create prompts and how to use prompting in Outlook and Word, because they were and Teams, because they were the 2 key applications. And then what we did was we linked them to Viva Learn. So we took Microsoft's training material. We didn't recreate it. We didn't rebrand it. We didn't recreate it. We didn't do it in our tone. Why? Because it was changing so quickly. By the time you create something, within a few weeks, a couple of weeks later, it would change, right? We couldn't keep up. Even Microsoft couldn't even keep up with the changes. You'd watch a video and go, oh, okay, yeah. And then you tried it and you're like, oh, it doesn't work. And you go back to them and they go, no, it's changed. So if they couldn't keep up, how are we going to keep up, right? So it really was a case of, that's why we initially took the approach of let's all learn together. And then once we've done this learning, we did know, the one thing that we did do was, which was customized and structured to us, is prompting. We did engage with an external learning company, L&D company, and help create training for prompting, because prompting is the key to deliver good results. And we had to teach. I mean, it's a mindset. It's a mindset change for everyone, right? So prompting was the one thing that we did invest in, and it took us some time to create a course, and it's only just recently, last month or so, it's been released to everyone. And then what we're doing now is we're on our second wave, and this time it really is training. It's because we've spent this year learning. We know where we can provide value, in what areas, and in what roles and what tasks. So now we can train. So the second wave has gone back, and we're now going through the firm and training people. And it's very specific to practice areas and business professional and the roles that they're in. And how we got some of that content is this next thing, and that is steering groups. So we decided to set up AI, and I'm calling it AI, it wasn't called Copilot, AI steering groups as per our AI transformation initiative. So we set up a steering group for each practice area globally, so there are global representations, and then for each business service area as well. That we've never been able to do, right? So HR, finance, IT, even IT have a steering group because people still learn, you know, this is a new thing for them as well. Some people don't even know how to use it in their roles. So, yeah, so there was a steering group for every single business service area and practice area. The members in each in each steering group was people from, you know, users from the practice areas or the business service areas, and then members of the IT business transformation teams, right? So people like me and other product managers and other sort of delivery, you know, people. The purpose of the steering groups was twofold. It was basically to share information. So users telling us how they work, and that has been such an eye-opener. Because I think it's Kim that you mentioned, access to what people are doing for the very first time in 27 years. This is good, clear access to understanding how people are working in their roles and how they use some of my applications. Right? Then, so people were telling us what they were doing, and then we were advising them based on what, you know, their roles and the tasks. We were then saying to them, okay, well, where do you use Copilot and how can you use and what prompts can you use in creating a more efficient result? I was part of the Global Business Services Steering Group that we created, and that included the document production teams, the global design teams, and the executive assistants to our leadership teams. And I loved being in that group because, like I said, for the very first time, I actually got to understand how people are working. And I actually, there was a lot of interesting insights as being part of that group. You know, one of the insights was people love now just using natural language to do whatever. People want to use natural language to format documents. They want to use natural language to create meetings. They want to use natural language to find content in documents. So some of that makes sense, but some of that doesn't. And some of that was like, well, okay, you don't need to use Copilot for this. We've actually got functionality that you could use. You know, if you want to format a document, use Docx tools. We've got Docx tools. So it really gave me an insight that actually there's a retraining program and a readoption that I need to do here at Clifford Chance to remind people of some of the other capabilities that we have with the drafting suite of apps. Yeah, so it's been a real eye-opener. So the output from steering groups was obviously this adoption plan for me and for other areas as well, you know, because we were able to tell other areas. And it's actually quite interesting because it's all these people creating their local macros. We got to find out who are creating macros, who are using, oh gosh, I forgot what the thing is, but yeah, just a bit doing their own way of working, creating these little workarounds. You're like, well, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. You can use this. So really, really getting access to what people are doing. And that actually is what then helps us with the transformation. If we know what people are doing, we can then help in that conversation to say, actually, if you want to do that, why don't you transform the way you work by doing X, Y, Z? The other output from the steering group was understanding what prompts we needed to create to aid people in, you know, they need some sort of aid. So we've got a prompt library that we've created on our own. People have access to that and we keep adding to it every week. It updates. So that's really, in essence, that's the journey. That's the journey so far. That's the journey that I can tell you about so far. There are lots of other information. But, you know, it really is. It's rapidly changing. I don't know if you guys, I mean, most of you have probably heard that now Microsoft have released wave 2 of Copilot, and that's, you know, more changes. So ever evolving. So that's me. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
I love a question. That I just wanted to know, can you give some examples of how Copilot is being used? So, like, what the tasks it's been developed for?
Yeah. So the biggest use case has been within Teams. So being able to record when you do your recordings and getting the summarization from it, the actions and all of that. So that's our biggest use case. Then also Word as well, Word within Word, summarizing documents, finding content. They're the two that I know are heavily used. The challenge is within Outlook, Copilot, you know, the functionality within Outlook, so redrafting and rewriting. Rewriting is another function as well that people have used Copilot quite a lot for. The drafting of emails, that only came a couple of months ago. So now people are starting to use that. So it's mostly right now, it's in, but yeah, I mean, that's what I know. Again, I don't have access to all the other steering groups and what's going on with all of that. So I'm sure there are many more use cases, but those are ones I know of because I support Office. Yeah.
This is my gym.
Just give it a bit of exercise. On the training front, did you get much kickback from anybody that they weren't educated enough, or was there? Because some of these things are like a non-event, and
Yeah.
as kind of trying to manage them, we kind of overkill the deployment.
As far as I know, we had no major complaints going, why weren't we trained on this formally and whatever. So as far as I know, that people they seemed to be happy with the content that we gave them initially. I think through the steering groups, we're getting the message out more and more. We have what we call tech hubs, so areas that people can go, and I know people are holding sessions there. So the training element, you know, they're getting more and more information. But yeah, no one really complained about that first, just getting the email and having it available.
Sorry, how are you? How is the business assessing the return on, like, the value of the return that it
Good question.
getting based on what it's spending? Because it's not cheap.
No, it's not cheap. That's not really an answer that I can give you because I'm not involved in that stream. I know we are. I know that there's lots of work being done in that area. I know we work with Microsoft and dashboards and stuff to get that ROI content, you know, like understanding, but it's not something that I can say anything more on, really.
Thank you. It's very formal having a microphone.
Yeah.
Just really curious to, and it's quite loud, isn't it? With the library, how is that accessible across the business? Is it something that people can update themselves, or is it
no, so it's controlled by the people who run the steering group committee meetings and that. So it's controlled. People can, you know, add to it, as in they can give their suggestions, and then we'll review that. Because there's a bit of tidying up, and you know, we do want to kind of just make sure that they all make sense. And then it's actually on SharePoint Online. So it's on a SharePoint Online site. So yeah.
So
and there's also a prompt library as well, because Microsoft are creating their prompt library, and we're trying to input into that as well. So there are different streams.
So just quickly, who do you get to do the training? Is it your IT trainers that do that training? Or?
So it's a combination, actually. It's not just the IT training, because don't forget we've got all these other applications that are updating, and there's training there and that. So it's that capacity, the training team. We don't have a big training team.
So that's what I was going to say.
So no, it's actually it's people. So in the business transformation teams, we've got a combination of legal technology advisors. We've got best delivery team. They're renamed as well. They've been renamed as well. I can't even remember what the new names are. But there is a group of people to help with the education and the training.
Right. Okay. We have our best practice team that tends to do that.
Yeah.
Because we don't understand prompt engineering for a start.
Exactly.
And there's all that sort of thing that would be a whole new ball game for us to learn.
Yeah.
So that's why I was interested to know what your approach was to the training.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just going to.
I think we've got some online questions.
Yeah, totally. Just take a pause for a second, just so we keep into time. And there's a bit of a choice to make, I suppose. So we've got to be back in the room at 3:30 after tea break. So it's coming up to 3 o'clock. We've got a half-hour tea break in the diary, and we've got a speaker that's joining us from online at 3:30. So we need to be back in the room at 3:30 sharp. But it does sound like we've got some questions that might be. So it's a sense of, shall we continue and run over by 5 minutes and have a 25-minute break? because this, yeah, I'm getting a few nods. So we've got, I think there's one question online. I know there's another question in row 2 or 3. So we'll take the online question first.
Can I just, I think this is another one where we'll be filling the form.
Yeah, totally. This won't be it, right? Because it's really interesting stuff. So
we have got more than one question online, but we'll just pick one for now.
Okay.
What guidance are you giving users about using Copilot to generate content?
What guidance are we giving users to generate content? That's a good question. Can I answer it? So the guidance has generally been that, especially if you're drafting, we have said be very cautious right now for legal drafting, because in any testing we've done so far, the results by both, lawyers and that has been mixed. So be cautious when you're drafting. Review, always review the content that comes back. You are the person with the experience and the knowledge, right? If something comes back and goes and you're like, actually that doesn't make sense, then don't use it. So it really, it's your responsibility to make sure that you look at the content that comes back and make sure it's accurate. That's the key message so we've got guidelines, and that's the key message there.
We have another question over here.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi. So kind of an extension of the return on investment side of things. I was wondering, have there been particular practice groups that have taken it up, or particularly business services groups that have taken up using Copilot more than others, or are you sort of seeing high usage across the firm, or how's it going?
Probably, again, there probably is. I really can't tell right now because I'm not involved in all the different steering groups and that. You need to speak to my director who has that overview. But I believe that there are definitely some practice areas that like it, are more willing to try and use and understand. So yeah, I believe, but I can't say what they are. I can't tell you who they are. Sorry. I am very limited. Yeah, there's only so much I know. Any other questions?
Any more questions? We're on plan. And that's it. And then we'll wrap up and go get a cup of tea, because we missed a cup of tea with our sandwich.
Yeah.
It was just around risk and compliance.
Yeah.
With external clients, because obviously we've come up across quite a few clients that don't want us to use it. To jurisdictions or things like that. So how did you come?
So there was another stream that dealt with that. That was obviously the beginning, the first stream that looked okay. So it was working with the risk teams, the clients, and whatever. I do know that the work was done initially beforehand. So we did go out to some clients and tell them, and and I do believe that we've even now started with some clients. We've changed the client terms and that, making them more aware. And then there's also some clients have actually said to us, can you use Copilot or can you use AI tools? So, but I do know, that's all I can really tell you. But I do know that there was that's probably that's the one that everyone wanted to make sure that we spend a bit more time on and address. Yeah.
I think that's a really good time to pause.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
I wish we could go into.
Yeah. I probably don't know. Thank you so much.